So welcome everyone. Glad to have you all. Um, we're gonna start off with the program soon, but just to do some housekeeping, if you haven't already and you would like to, we'd love to hear who you are, if you're farming, what the name of your farm is, what type of farm you have, and where you're located. Helps us get to know where folks are because we'll have presenters from across the state talking about their specific small farm boot camp programs. If you are not a speaker presenting, we ask that anything that you have to say, comments, questions, etc., go in the chat. And that way, those of us monitoring it can do that and share those with presenters at a time that makes sense. We'll probably hold questions until the end so that we can get through everything. And if you'll just make sure that you're muted in the meantime, that'll be super helpful. And then to introduce myself, I'm Hannah Bundy. I work with North Carolina FarmLink. And so we are co-hosting this webinar with the Small Farm Bootcamp team because we think that it is a wonderful program and we'd like all of our audience to know about it. If folks aren't able to make it now, or if you need to go back through, because we're recording it, we'll send that link out to everyone so you'll have access to the slides as well as the entire presentation. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to the team.
All right, thanks, Hannah. I'm the other Hannah, I'm Hannah Dankbar. Speaking for the Small Farm Bootcamp team, we're really excited to be here today. Putting together this curriculum has been a pretty heavy lift across the state. And we had a really successful pilot program, and we're really excited to be able to deliver this across the state. So today you're going to hear from a handful of different people. We have some wonderful extension agents who have taught this program in their own counties. And they're the ones who are going to talk about the program itself and what it means to be a participant in Small Farm Bootcamp. And we'll do some introductions as we go along the way. Just to start, I'm Hannah Dankbar. I manage the local food program at NC State for NC State Extension, where we look at how we can support farmers from farm to fork, looking at how we can produce food here in North Carolina and how we can use that to meet goals within agriculture and also strengthen our communities. So just to get us started, yeah, we'll kick off. We'll do introductions as we go. So just a little bit of what we're going to go through in the next hour is we're going to start with an introduction of Cooperative Extension, hopefully by being linked into FarmLink. Y'all are pretty familiar with the system, but just to get it out there even more. Then we'll walk through the Small Farm Bootcamp curriculum, talk about what it looks like to implement the program and to be a participant in the program, and then what we're looking forward to in 2024. So to get us started, North Carolina Cooperative Extension is a pretty large organization. It's a partnership between NC State University and NC State University. And our main goal is to solve any and every problem or goal, whatever North Carolina wants to learn about, we want to help be there. So we have statewide specialists based at both universities, and then we have county staff based in all 100 counties and also the eastern band of the Cherokee Indians out west. We have a few program areas with local food sort of interweaving between all of these. The one we're going to talk about the most today is agriculture and food. How do we support our farmers who are in the field growing food? But we also take a step out and do some health and nutrition programming with our family and consumer science program area. And then hopefully y'all have heard of 4-H and all of their wonderful programming. And we also have a community development. So looking at sort of the systems-based approach to really look at what's going on in North Carolina and ask how can we be the best state and have the best communities that we possibly can. So this is a little bit about how we're organized, and this is really just to hone in on the services that we can provide. So again, we're a partnership between two universities, focusing on a whole bunch of different things. We even have a tourism extension area. And in this sustainable ag, small scale farming world, we also collaborate really closely with the Center for Environmental Farming Systems. I want to give them a special shout out. They are also a collaboration between NC State University, NC State University, and our State Department of Agriculture. And they do a wide variety of sustainable agriculture research and education, and also a lot of programming and support for local food systems. So if you've heard of things like the NC 10% campaign, where we encourage consumers to buy local, or Amazing Grazing and NC Choices, where we're looking at how to, pun intended, beef up niche meat production and really support our local animal producers. Thank you. And other things as well. We have some regional programs such as Empowering Mountain Food Systems out in the mountains, really looking at that regional food system development as well as some other things. So that's a little bit about who we are and how we're structured. We want to make sure everybody knows how to access their county office. So this will run through a few steps. If you're on any extension website, on the very top of the screen, there's a button called County Centers. That will pull up a map for you where you're able to select your county, and that will pull you to your county website. So you're able to look at the local food website where we have very broad statewide level information, but we want to be able to connect you with the events and programs that are happening in your county, which is where these county websites are really important, and where you would go to sign up for a Small Farm Bootcamp program. So this is an important takeaway. And we're happy to help folks navigate to their county website or connect you directly with agents if that's helpful. So getting into Small Farm Bootcamp, the effort to create Small Farm Bootcamp started several years ago when we heard from horticulture agents who were saying they were identifying a lot of frequently asked questions they were getting from small scale and beginner farmers, and they really wanted resources that they could pick up and teach and answer these questions with. And we didn't have anything aggregated like that at the state level. What we did have is a program called NC Farm School, which I hope at least some of you have heard of. And this program focuses on business planning for small scale and new and beginner farmers. But it really focuses on that business and financial planning. It doesn't really get into the production techniques and knowledge that you need to implement in the field. So we wanted to create this complementary program, and that's where Small Farm Bootcamp comes in. So Small Farm Bootcamp is going to focus primarily only really on food production and techniques. And then there's this other program, NC Farm School, that gets into the business planning side. So we really want to create a holistic set of resources for small scale and new and beginning farmers to help you along your journey. And there's websites for both of these, and we'll be sure to share out any and all links. So a little bit more about Small Farm Bootcamp. I think I already went through most of this. It was designed as a solution to meet a growing need for assisting new and beginning farmers with building foundational knowledge and skills in food production. I think we've all had a moment where we walked into the field. I've been like, okay, so now what? And we want to make sure Extension is with you in those moments and we can help answer those questions. So we're trying to provide a holistic and intensive introduction to farming, framing agricultural concepts and techniques to be more approachable, which as we start to get into what the curriculum actually teaches, I think you'll see that it's quite an extensive list and there's a lot of things to know. And we want to make it seem a little less intimidating. And we also designed it to be adaptable to meet the needs of specific communities across the state. That was a specific request from our agents, and we did the best that we could to respond to that request. And we also wanted to make it cost effective and accessible so that it can be taught across the state and be accessible for participants. We did this within the Small Farm Bootcamp. We started with a group of modules that were prioritized by agents. And then I think as we started building and teaching and piloting the curriculum, we ended up adding a few more modules along the way. But we had a great team of horticulture agents and even some campus-based specialists who were writing and reviewing the content so we can make sure it's as up-to-date and as accurate as possible. And now that we have this curriculum up and running, our growing farm capacity work group, which is where this was housed, is looking at how we can build on this momentum. Are there questions that we missed? Are there these other types of statewide resources we can develop? And we really need our agent participation to be able to develop the best resources we can. Let's see. Yeah, we were able to pilot this program across 12 counties, and we gathered all that feedback, and we're going to get into what this means for 2024. Now I'll pass it to Brooke.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brooke Matusko. I'm currently a master's in horticulture student at NC State University, but I've also been helping out and interning with Hannah and the extension team. So we're going to dive into some of the advantages of the Small Farm Bootcamp model. As we have heard from Hannah through the many partnerships that Extension has, they're able to meet ever-changing needs of producers and the industry. So one of the things that we're able to is partnerships with researchers, private and public organizations, as we discussed before, like partnering with the universities, partnering with organizations like the Center for Environmental Farming Systems. And then we also try to focus on having a systems approach and thinking about going from soil to plate. We also want to focus on building relationships with agents, local producers, and markets. And lastly, we want to include education on both technical production as well as market access. So the Small Farm Bootcamp has a modular format, which makes it highly relevant as a technical education specific to small and medium scale food production. The modular approach allows the program to meet more audience specific needs, and we can cater it towards the different participants in each individual program. It serves as an entry point for new or prospective farmers to gain additional resources along with NC Farm School. It is, like I said before, specific to small scale commercial production. And it can help farmers identify how to avoid obstacles that historically underserved producers have dealt with, and also connect to vital resources. So now we're going to dive into the actual curriculum for Small Farm Bootcamp. So we currently have 3 different tracks for Small Farm Bootcamp, which is the vegetable track, the livestock track, and the fruit track. And as you can see, they range between 7 to 9 modules. So we have the 5 core modules, which are listed in blue on this visual. We have local food production, soil health, integrated pest and pollinator management, post-harvest and food safety, and then putting a plant to work. So these core modules will be included in every iteration of Small Farm Bootcamp, regardless of which program you join. These are just the all-encompassing modules that we think is really important to have foundational knowledge. And the specialty modules, which are in the different colors on the right, those are variable depending on which type of program you sign up for. And that's based on the need that the agent identifies in your individual county. So these are the modules currently offered, and in the future, we do plan to work on creating more. So getting into the structure and time frame of Small Farm Bootcamp. In the past, during our pilot program last year, the modules were taught 1 day a week during a 2 to 4 hour long session, either on a weekday or weekend, just depending on whichever time the agent finds fits best with the program and the participants. Like I said, they might be offered evenings during the weekday or over the weekend. And usually the weekend sessions are longer, but once you sign up for a program, the agent will determine what's the best fit for the participants in the county. And when you sign up to participate in the Small Farm Bootcamp program, the agent should coordinate with everyone. Also, depending on how many total modules that your program does teach, the duration of the Small Farm Bootcamp program can run anywhere between 8 to 12 weeks. There are some mini series that are being hosted this year that just have a couple of modules, so they're not a full Small Farm Bootcamp program, and those could be 2 to 4 weeks long. Or if you wanted to combine two different program tracks together, it could run beyond the 12 weeks. And also, counties may charge registration fees in order to have funding to support the program and just make it as the best it can be for participants by having field trips, class activities, supplies, and even food and refreshments during the sessions. So now we're going to go into an overview of all of our modules. I think we currently have 13 modules, so we're just going to very briefly just talk about what each module entails.
So the very first module in Small Farm Bootcamp is getting started with local food production. We know that a lot of folks get into farming, really excited to spend time in the field, but also really excited to contribute to their community and connect with consumers in their community and really use the food grown on their on your farm to stay within your community and either address food security or just make people happy. I know buying local strawberries, especially this time of year, is always really great and something to celebrate. So we wanted to start off the curriculum giving that community and system-based framework. So as you're planning your farm and thinking about what you want to grow and how much and everything, having in the back of your mind, where do you want to sell that? What kind of contribution will you be making to your community? So we'll get a little bit into like big picture food production and talking about that. But we're also going to give an overview of market channel considerations, community assets, thinking about like food banks and food pantries, as well as like farmers markets, food hubs, other things. Talk through some common opportunities and obstacles, and maybe hear about something that you're experiencing already and maybe some things to anticipate, and also explore community resources. And that's just this first module to get us thinking big picture. And we'll walk through this system of the food system and all of these different elements and think about how what that means for your farm.
Hello, everybody. The next module is soil health. In this module, we'll talk about soils and how we analyze them, how we break them down, how we do a soil test, how you get a soil test, how you test your soil, how you take the sample, how you analyze it, and how you read that test and figure out how to amend the soil to make it better and make it better for your growth. Talk about all the different types of soil amendments, soil colloids, a very basic breakdown of soil science, and very much most of what you'll need to be successful as a small farmer. Thank you.
So the next module is integrated pest and pollinator management, and this is our newest module that we are just finishing up. And this is basically just an introduction to the principles and main practices within managing pests and diseases. That includes insects and weeds and diseases that you may encounter as a grower, as well as understanding the factors that can play into plant health, learn the diagnostic method and how to start utilizing that on your farm, learn how to, the basic ID for pests and diseases. There's so many out there, it's going to be impossible for you to know everything, but just learning the different characteristics of diseases on your plants. You can tell whether it's a disease or a nutrient deficiency, and just kind of learning the basic body structure of insects that could help you identify them better in the future. And this triangle over here is diving into the principles and practices within IPPM, such as field management, sampling and monitoring, and abiotic and biotic inputs. And we also wanted to touch on how to support and manage pollinator habitat, because pollinators are very important for helping our crops. Also, the next one is vegetable production. And this is just covering the key aspects of vegetable crop production, such as doing a farm site analysis to help you know the best place to put your field or your high tunnel, what kind of growing conditions vegetables usually need, how much sunlight, how much water they need, and then getting into actual crop production and cultural practices such as tillage, fertilization, crop rotation, all that kind of good stuff. And we're also going to dive into market channels in different ways, avenues that you could use to market your crops. We would go over fertility and tissue sampling so that you can manage the fertility and health of your crops, and talk about other things like irrigation and transplanting, and then finally touch on some post-harvest concerns specific to vegetable production. The next module is tree fruit production, and this is kind of similar layout to vegetable production, and it's just the key aspects of production and orchard management. So we would go over site selection and soils, again, the type of, talking about slope, the different types of soil you need, the drainage for fruit crops, and then going into the cultivars and rootstocks, which is more important with tree fruits, talking about pruning and training and maintenance, learning how to prune and train crops or fruit trees with no prior experience can be very intimidating. So we included a lot of videos and references to other agents that are specialists in this area. We also touched on pest and disease management, some economics for tree fruit, and lastly, the harvesting and marketing techniques. And then the next one is small fruit, which is just aspects of small fruit production, as well as a little bit more on how to make a niche market. So again, site selection and soil, choosing your location, the type of cultural practices that are required with small fruit production, especially with strawberries. The many different types of varieties there are. We go into the pros and cons of different types of varieties that are recommended in North Carolina. And then we get more into harvest and post-harvest concerns, especially with berries, because they are highly perishable. And then going into the economics of setting up your small fruit system, and then the different types of marketing and the different niche marketing options, and like you pick and things like that.
So season extension, that is something that is kind of a unique topic that is relevant to many of the folks who are involved with Small Farm Bootcamp, but not necessarily everyone. So season extension generally is just going to be anything that allows a crop to be grown kind of outside of its normal season. And there's a lot of different things that come with that conceptually in the program, from cultural practices, learning about which cultural practices are going to be best for different ways to extend the season, different types of structures, whether it be a greenhouse, a high tunnel, a hoop house. There's a bunch of different ways you can set something up that are pertinent to your goals. Some of the fabrics and the landscape supplies that might be necessary. There are certainly concerns with fertility and also soil fertility, and also relating to some of the other things, other topics that we talk about, like integrated pest management, etc. Also, season extension is very relevant to temperature and climate, which of course changes from the mountains to the coast throughout the state. So really making sure that the topics that we teach you are relevant into how you might extend your season is part of that module. But I'll pass it off to Brooke.
Hey, this is Martha Mobley. I'm longtime agent in Franklin County, and my background is mainly with livestock production. But in this module, this is a new module that the wonderful agent Meredith from Lee County and I worked on the month of December putting together for you and for this as a new program, new module, because we did have that request. And we did develop curriculums for beef, cattle, for pork, pastured poultry, and also small ruminants such as the goats and for the sheep. And they are now up and running on the website for agents to use and for us to use to teach a lot of our area farmers, small farmers. But in this material, which was developed, a lot of this material was originally developed by our specialists, both at A&T and at NC State University. But this came from North Carolina Choices Initiative, and we put together their presentations into this easy packaged module. But in this modules for all these different species, we'll talk about basic infrastructure that would be needed, such as how many feed troughs do you need, how many waterers do you need, all of that good stuff, fencing, and where to get that fencing, proper reproductive management, so you can plan when you're going to have those pastured poultry ready to go to the processor, or you process them yourself, or beef cattle or whatever. And then we're going to talk about health and animal welfare, and then animal nutrition and grasses, forages. So that's very important with a lot of these, some of these animals, such as beef production and our small ruminants, especially with the forage systems, when to plant, when you can harvest, when to cut hay, all of that good stuff. Then we talk about genetics and different breed characteristics of these different modules and different types of animals, and then how to diagnose and treat illnesses in all of these species of animals. So this is a new module, and I know some of us in the state, I will personally be kicking off the beef module on. We'll be talking about that later on, but we are very excited about kicking off this year the livestock production modules.
So then we have post-harvest and food safety, and this just goes more into depth about the key aspects of produce harvest and post-harvest handling techniques universally for all crops. And some of the other modules for like vegetable and tree fruit and small fruit, they touch on post-harvest handling techniques just for those specific crops, but this tries to do like an all-encompassing for all different crops you might be growing. So it touches on how to safety and post-harvest practices can affect your business. Touches on good agricultural practices, otherwise known as GAPs, and other certifications that you can have as a farmer that will increase your likelihood of staying up to date on all food safety needs and even using it as a marketing purposes. We would go over food safety audits, the Food Safety Modernization Act, and any current updates to that act to make sure you're complying. And then we'd get into the produce harvest and post-harvest handling techniques for quality and safety. So like how to harvest your produce, how to reduce field heat and keep it as fresh as possible, storage conditions, how you can wash it, how you package it, and different types of cooling systems that you could use on a budget, or just if you don't have as much space available, how to save space. So that's mostly what this module encompasses.
All right, and the last module we're going to touch on is putting a plan to work. So this is really a nice module to bring everything home, talking about a lot of the different modules that were covered in a boot camp, whether it's vegetable production, livestock, season extension, really thinking about all of that in the realm of a business plan. So putting a plan to work is kind of like, I like to think of it as NC Farm School Light, because it gets you kind of primed to think about your farm as a business. So you're thinking about how everything fits together, your production with regard to what enterprises or types of crops or livestock that you're planning to either grow or raise on your farm, how that all fits together. Thinking about your capital, what types of money do you have available? If it's personal savings, can you access loans? Are there particular micro grants or different opportunities that you might have available? And thinking about all the financial assets that you need for a farm, thinking about risk, making sure you have proper safeguards in place with regard to insurance, and thinking about liability. Thinking about your values too, because we want y'all to enjoy the farm that you have, and thinking about those values up front when you're building your farm out, making a plan. You want to make sure that as you're building your farm, you are either connecting with the community if that's an important value for you, or you're creating space to be with family as well. So thinking about your team, the different assets that you have to leverage on your farm, thinking about also what the ultimate end goal of what you're wanting to do with your farm, and making sure you're checking along with a business plan potentially, and connecting you with resources to help you build that out. So this putting a plan to work really puts a bow on Small Farm Bootcamp and helps you think about how it all needs to jive together, what you're wanting to achieve, your goals, and how you're going to go about doing it.
All right, so we know that those are just a few things that you're thinking about as a farmer, and it was a pretty heavy lift to get all that packaged up in one curriculum, and we're really excited about it. So hopefully that wasn't too overwhelming. Remember, there's multiple tracks. Yeah, if you sign up for all 13 modules, or that's taught in your county, that is amazing and awesome. And if find the track that fits best for your farm, and we're going to hope that you work with your county agent to figure that out. So now that you've heard what's included in the whole curriculum, we're going to hear from the folks who have been talking so far today, and hear about what it means to participate and to teach a small farm boot camp in their counties. So these names will look familiar, and I'm gonna let folks introduce themselves as we go. And we're gonna kick off with Meredith.
Thanks, Hannah. So yeah, I was talking about putting a plan to place, putting a plan to work. So I'm happy to go ahead and lead the charge on the agent panel. I was very fortunate for my first opportunity to offer boot camp as an instructor. I had a great agent team that I was working with. So we did a South Central Regional Small Farm Boot Camp. So I had 6 other agents who were helping me teach the different portions of Small Farm Boot Camp, and we offered this last year in 2023. We hosted here in Lee County, which is shown here on the map, right in the middle of the state. But we had 4 other counties represented, those agents from those counties who came together and helped to teach this course. And we had over 8 counties represented of participants, which was wonderful. So we had a pretty wide net, and it was great to get different people's perspectives, different situations that they were dealing with as they're starting to get into farming. And we offered Small Farm Bootcamp as a 8-week program. So we offered all of the 8 pilot modules to all of our participants. We had about 48 participants in our group, and we offered them on Saturdays from 10 to 3 p.m. And a lot of times we put in activities along with those programs, the modules. So getting into a little bit more of how our boot camp was structured, like I said, we covered all 8 modules. So we paired the classroom content, the different modules, and typically that was done in the morning with activity-based learning. So every day we had our participants come in and essentially sit for about 2 hours, go through all the content in the module. We then had a lunch break, and then we either stayed at the extension office and did experience-based learning, either learning how to do a sales pitch for our local foods activity, or a soil exploration activity for our soils module, or we went to a farm and we coordinated with local farms around us. Based on the content we were covering that day, we went to a local farm that then was growing that particular crop or were raising livestock. So everyone could see a kind of a nice diversity. So for example, on Small Fruit Day, we went to a blueberry farm. And so we were able to really see concepts in action that we had talked about that morning. And after we offered all of our 8 modules, our 8-week program, we actually continued to check in with our alumni from the group, because there was no way we could cover all the questions that we received in class, even during with the bootcamp curriculum, as comprehensive as it is. So we ended up doing alumni check-ins, which touched on livestock, which touched on some of the different modules we've now developed as part of the bootcamp curriculum. And so that's what we're hoping to do in the future. And speaking of that, we will be offering another boot camp this year coming up, and that's the next slide. Oh, and these are actually photos from those different activities. So these are images from the classes where different agents were teaching, and then these are some of the examples of the different activities we did, like seed swaps, our soil exploration. We had people bring in their soils and look at how they were different. We talked about fertilizer and how to read soil reports. So we did a lot of different activities. And here's some of the site visits that we did. So one of them, we were at an orchard. And then the other one, we actually finished at a food hub, Sandhills Ag Innovation Food Hub in Ellerby. And we had the food hub manager, who's also a small farmer, grows muscadines for his U-Pick farm. He was able to speak from both hats, both the food hub manager hat for what he's looking for with the way of produce and different products, local products, and also from his farming perspective, and learn about different equipment and things too. And so for this year, our team is planning to offer boot camp again. We will be doing a 10-week program coming up in September. We will be doing Saturdays, just like we did the previous year, because that ended up working out well for a lot of our program participants who work full-time. So we are planning to do a 10-week program starting September 7th and running until November 23rd. We are taking a couple weeks off because of Veterans Day, and we have a CFSA conference. So we'll have a little break towards the end to make space for those 2 big events that a lot of our participants like to go to, and we also often go to. We will be hosting these jointly in Moore and Harnett counties, so we'll be alternating who hosts, but it will be in Moore and Harnett, and then we will actually be doing an application because we had so much demand last year, so we will be opening that link so folks can submit their application. and we will go through that. We'll be opening application links very soon. We'll be getting the marketing material out, and these are the different modules we'll be covering. The 10 are listed here. And then we are doing pricing based on, again, printing, covering food, honorariums for farmers. So our core topics are going to be around 100 for all 5. So it's about 25 per class to cover all of their materials. And then we'll be doing specialty topics too. So those are the 10 that we'll be covering.
Okay, so I will jump in now. I don't know if I remembered to really do much of an intro earlier, but I am John Little. I'm the agriculture agent in Durham County, and most of my focus is on small farms and local food systems. So that's one of the reasons why this program is so meaningful to me and to the people who hopefully were able to attend it. So that being said, considering that our last year, our being Durham and Wake County, our program last year was structured a little bit differently, and we tried to learn as many things as possible to kind of benefit how the program ultimately will go from the different way that we structured it. But it was dual county, so it was Wake County and Durham County, each of which has fairly unique needs. You know, every county around the state is going to have different resources and different needs, but around here, there is a lot of vegetable crop production, a lot of season extension, and specifically a lot of interest in regenerative practices and the soil health principles which accompany those regenerative practices. So we mostly did online. And I say mostly because we did have some kind of unstructured follow-ups, which I can talk about a little bit more later to our program. But we delivered a kind of a smaller, condensed version with the modules that were voiced needed by our counties during weeknights. And we just did 3 of the modules, 2 core and 1 specialty. I think that's right. But that being said, we did so in the way that essentially we delivered these programs. We had some follow-up opportunities and some essentially Q&A, interactive Q&A, but also, you know, other, what's the word, supplemental learning opportunities that we're offering to kind of follow that. So most of what we really learned through these through these 3 weeks that we did our night small farm boot camp was essentially that it requires a lot of structure and that there is additional follow-up needed. So if you would advance the slide 1 for me. A lot of that additional follow-up that was necessary came in the form, at least for us, and probably this showed how we needed to do some tweaking to our modules after the pilot run, which we've done. But a lot of those resources that are available to other folks, like the NCDA and their soil testing program, local county soil and water departments, the Center for Environmental Farming Systems, which we've mentioned here and there. A lot of the resources that we make it a point to direct folks towards in their farming enterprises, at least in the way we implemented our pilot program, really just kind of came in the form of robust back and forth relationships with participants afterward. So we really had an opportunity to kind of help in a lot of ways that maybe the other pilot program in the South Central region, you guys probably had a bit more of that after built into your program. So it's structured differently, but we certainly learned a lot that helped us to really better the program and to also give participants really strong base knowledge in a lot of the areas that mattered to them. That's what was important to us, was delivering a program that people could learn relevant things to what they were doing. So there's a lot of different, agricultural practices exist on, a spectrum of options. So kind of making people aware of different things that were available to them, different ways they could do things, and then kind of build future programs. That was generally our mindset, was opportunities for follow-up, but also addressing the needs at hand. So certainly a very different program implementation using very comparable resources that ultimately created what is an extremely cohesive 2024 and onward Small Farms Bootcamp program. So I think I have one more slide, if you don't mind advancing it for me. So there were a lot of good takeaways, in addition to getting really strong feedback from the folks who attended the classes at night and then did various, structured or unstructured follow-ups that we had for those classes. We were able to cast a really wide net. We didn't have to do Saturdays because we offered, hybrid or remote programs. So you can, have a really broad reach, depending upon what your county's needs are and what your county agent, really decides. There's a few ways that the program could be structured, but it can't be done without all of the necessary modules. As far as follow-up education, I mean, we're here to talk about Small Farms Bootcamp, but there are a lot of really referential, strong things towards local food programming, towards, not small farm stuff, which I'll talk about later. But the opportunities for engagement were perhaps the strongest thing that our program delivery really created. People created networks, people, really fortified their foundations for a farming enterprise, if you will. And that's all the time I'll take about that. But we did have a very unique program delivery, and I'm excited. We don't have Durham. Durham does not have one on the calendar for 24, but I think we'll probably do one later in the year or perhaps early next year. So I will, at this point, turn it over to our friends in Franklin County.
Great, thank you. So we had our team, it was mainly Franklin County, but it was regional. For many, many years here in Franklin County, we've held the Successful Small Farms Opportunities Conference. So when we learned of this program that was organized by Hannah and her wonderful team, we said, forget the conference. We're going to just use this curriculum, outstanding curriculum, and draw in our people that were already on our database of small farmers, because we're adjacent to Wake County. Franklin is right above Wake County, and we knew we have a lot of people moving in that buy small acreage and say, what do I do with this farm? What can I do to make some money on this land and at least pay the taxes? So we have developed this we just all met together, our team here at the office, with Charles Mitchell, our CED, who had a strong background in agriculture and horticulture. We have William Landis, who's our ag agent with North Carolina A&T State University, and he focuses on small farms and does a great job. We had Colby Griffin, who was doing horticulture. He has moved now to Nash County, but he will still come back if we need him. And then, of course, myself, who has a strong background in livestock, and then also in marketing. So we decided to have this 5-week short course last year, focusing on the modules that were already developed. So it was 5-week short course on Thursday evenings. We opened it up. People could get off maybe an hour early from work. So we started at 4 o'clock. Halfway through the programs, we had a delicious catered meal brought in, hopefully with local foods if we could find them. And then we went on into the evening to about 8:30, 8 o'clock, 8:30. We had a huge group. We were very pleased with 51 participants that came back week after week on these Thursday evenings in person. They could ask questions. We brought in soil reports. We brought in diseased plants, whatever. We had a tremendous turnout. But like I said, we already had a strong database with our Opportunities Conference for many years. So we had the agents from 2 counties, like with Colby, now they're Nash, and then our group here in Franklin that did the instructing, and we tag teamed off on the different modules. But we were very pleased with that turnout. And then we had Also, some guest lecturers that came in. We included the classroom instruction. We had one day of visiting a farm, and we have a few pictures in a minute, but that happened to be my local farm about 3 miles from the office. And that our family farm, Century Farm, is very diversified. And this is our strawberries in the field now. Even though I have a lot of livestock, this is our organic strawberries and tunnels being developed, caterpillar tunnels. You can see the soil being bedded up in that tunnel. And so we spent a day, about a half a day, on the family farm, going from site to site, even talking a little about livestock. And some more pictures will show that in a minute. But that was a chance for the students to come out and go out, and we had a beautiful day, and they could ask questions. And we had all of us were there, the instructors, and we capped it off with the local food tour. Also, we had on Mother's Day last year a field day that was open to the public. And that was our Women in Ag local foods tour. We had 8 farms that could be visited on a Sunday. And it started at 10 o'clock and it ended at 6. So we had our little rules and regs that people could download everything in the map online, so it didn't cost us so much money to have. Sort of like CFSA's spring tour, but this focused just on farms in Franklin County. And they could drive and go and buy from the different farms and just could meet the farmer face to face. But that was held on Mother's Day. I'd like to say that this year we're having the 3rd annual local food tour, and that's going to be on Mother's Day, and it's May 12th. And that link can be downloaded on the Franklin County Cooperative Extension's website. But this program last year was targeted to our small farmers, mainly our new farmers in the community. And it's just to meet these people face to face. You developed friendships, you recognize faces, and they'll see you anywhere, they'll call you anytime, and we're here to help them like we do with Cooperative Extension. But we even have made a lot of farm visits because of this boot camp, and we're just trying to help them be profitable. We did focus last year on the fruit and vegetable side of it, but we added record keeping and business plans. We did bring in, Hannah spoke about the North Carolina Farm School that helped with the business plan. So at the last session, we brought in that specialist from NC State that did briefly talk about farm schools. We also did bring in one of my local women in ag who happens to be a certified CPA, and she did teach record keeping session and touch on business plans. A wonderful bonus of this boot camp was when I received a phone call from one of my former 4-H parents who had now working with the Northeast Revitalization Program that had just gotten $50,000 grant from the legislature in our local legislator. So they came and they created a business plan with our local community college. They came one night and they had 5 of our students receive $1,000 grant to participate in a course on how to write and develop their own business plan. And of all these people that were in this class with the community college, now this class, business class, was after the farm school ended. The top participant that was selected received a $5,000 grant, and she was one of our students to help and assist with her cut flower operation. And this same community college and this same group spoke last week at my agritourism conference here in the county, and they're doing the same thing this year to try to help boost, start one of these programs. So that was a great, unexpected, last minute bonus to be participating in this camp. That- So this is the farm tours. This was at my family farm that we came out. We saw, we hooked up the tractor, got dollies so we could drive around with the sheriff following behind us with the lights on to make sure we didn't get hit. And then we went to organic strawberries, and we had a producer, small farmer come in that's very successful with shiitake mushrooms that talked to the group and demonstrated inoculating logs. And we also had a speaker come in that was constructing a caterpillar tunnel from the ground up right then. So he was able to share his knowledge and expertise with building these tunnels. So that was just that Saturday, that Thursday all day field day that we had. And then, like I said, we had the local food Mother's Day tour that was held in May, middle of May. Plans for this year, like I'm going back to the livestock roots and with the interest, we are having a mini series focusing just on beef cattle production. It's called Back to the Basics, and I'm tag teaming with a longtime friend from Sampson County. He grew up he mainly does beef cattle work, and myself, who's grew up in the beef cattle industry. And we're offering a 2-week series on Thursday evenings, May 16th. I think you can see it starts at 4 o'clock and we'll end about 8:30. We're bringing in, it's only 20 some dollars, $23, I believe, for the dinner that night. And we will take a short break, then start back using these modules. And we have, it'll be 2 nights. We will be including another topic on direct marketing your beef, ins and outs, because we do have a lot of interest of farmers who want to market their beef or pork or chickens at farmers markets or online, and they need to know the regulations. So we are including one more module at the very conclusion. But we're excited about this module. It's very inexpensive. People are only just paying for their meal that night. So that's what we're going to probably continue on with other livestock modules in the summer, such as pastured pork, lamb and goat, and other things, poultry.
Awesome. And that's a great transition to our next point. So hopefully that sounded like an enticing experience for you. We have been pushing the curriculum out to agents across the state, and trying to get as many folks aware of it and really caught up on everything that's involved with the curriculum. And we do have quite a few county offices that have planned small farm boot camps for 2024. We gathered the list that we have so far, which you'll find through this QR code. Our list got a little long and the slides got a little chunky, so Brooke was great and had a great idea to put it in a document. And we hear about more coming in all the time. And what's really helpful for this program to spread is to hear demand across the state from farmers. That's how this program was initially developed. So if this sounded interesting to you, we hope that you'll go to your county office and request that it is taught. And if your county office isn't aware of it, we're happy to work with them as well. You can point them to the recording of this webinar. We'll send out links and everything too, but hopefully you had a chance to snap that QR code quick. And I'll hand it off to John to wrap us up. Oh, sorry, forgot an animation.
Thank you, Hannah. So yes, just want to talk about a few necessary supplemental resources before we go. There are a lot of good farming. Well, I don't want to get ahead of myself. There are a lot of farming apprenticeship programs out there. Here are 2 good ones, is how I will say that. And there are certainly more than this. But let's see, I know you have animations, but I'm kind of just looking at the slide. Would you put all the, yeah, so the worldwide opportunities on organic farms. that is a cool program that offers a lot of different options depending upon where you are in the world. Look into it. We don't have a whole lot to do with them, but we do certainly want to make you all aware of them. They're a cool place, and they have a lot going on. Also, CEFS, the Center for Environmental Farming Systems, they are a little bit more local. They have some really cool apprenticeship programs with again, a variety of different farming methods, different production strategies. They have areas dedicated to specialty crops, areas dedicated to organics and crop rotation with, multi-species cover crops, things like that. Very cool. Check out CEFS if you are interested in anything and you're vaguely within reach of the Goldsboro, North Carolina area. Those are both good options. And if you would advance the slides for me, please. And yeah, I'm going to ask again if you just put everything on there. It's a little easier for me to talk about. As far as incubator farms, again, agriculture is something that kind of has a cultural, industrial, renewed life breathed into it recently. Maybe COVID, I'll find a soapbox. Maybe COVID made people recognize how fickle the food systems can be and how valuable it is to produce things agriculturally. But there are a lot of good incubator farms in this area, some of which have come about in the last few years, some of which have been around for a while. The Southern Appalachians Highlands Conservancy, that's a good one. I won't just read off everything, but the Lomax Farm, which is CFSA's farm, the Carolina Farm Stewardship Association, not to be confused with the Center for Environmental Farming Systems. They've got a good incubator farm. There are a couple of really interesting opportunities in Orange County. I will not miss saying the Vet Farm of North Carolina because we have a Lee County representative here today. And then, so lots of cool ones, but also specifically one thing that if you're in or around Durham County, we just got 130 acres a couple weeks ago that we are building into an incubator farm right now. So even though there is a bit of, there are a number of different options across the state of North Carolina, I believe that there is no saturation, if you will, on this whatsoever, because it is a market that has been, or an industry, if you will, that has been underserved for a really long time. So we're happy to point you to a number of incubator farms, several of which Extension has direct involvement with. That's all I got for that one. I think I have, yeah, so resources. I'm going to take a second here because there are, that's a lot of what I talked about today is making folks aware of the resources that we have available, and when we're doing a soil health demonstration module, we're going to be talking about the NCDA and the soil testing lab, which I somehow managed to not put on here when I was updating this, and I used it as an example. But there's a lot of really, really great options. FarmLink, that's why you guys are here. There's a lot of merit to paying attention to, land acquisition, land exchange. Again, y'all know why, y'all know about FarmLink, but I can't tout it enough. It's a very good resource. NC Farm School, another extension program, very exclusive in material from Small Farms Bootcamp. NC Farm School is essentially very much on the agronomy, agribusiness side of things. You're going to learn a little bit more about taxes on your assets than you would about, which ground cover to use. Poor metaphor, perhaps, but farm school is a very cool thing. We know about Small Farms Bootcamp. Please pursue that link, look for details. If, I would love to be your Small Farm Bootcamp instructor if you're in this region, and I do another class this year. SARE, the Southern Agricultural, who remembers? Somebody here knows what SARE stands for. I should remember.
Research and education.
Thank you, Hannah. They're most of the handheld books that I like to pass people out about, regenerative techniques and cover cropping and things like that. Like a lot of that stuff comes from SARE. They're very cool. The farm planning portal, that is another extension resource that, helps you evaluate what your assets are, what your obstacles are, you know, what your resources are. Keep using that word, but that's what we're talking about. Please, you know, investigate NC State Extension. They are, in addition to North Carolina State, you know, we're a two university partnership, and they've got a lot of really strong and unique resources. And some of their extension programs focus is a little bit more focused on community development, and then using agriculture for community development as opposed to just how you grow stuff. So certainly some unique resources there. And I think, yeah, I know we got a couple A&T folks here today as well. So shout out Will Landis. Also, I'm sure we got some other folks too. New and beginning farmers, check out another one of our wonderful local foods program resources. Proud to be a part of that wherever I get to be. CEFS is a diamond in the rough. I'm not talking about Goldsboro. I'm talking about a state that does not do much organic and regenerative research compared to some places. CEFS does a really wonderful job. And I won't say we don't do a lot of research, but CEFS really leads the charge for a lot of good things. The second to last thing that I'm mentioning is a webinar series that I do in partnership with CEFS, where we do every 2 months, we do at 12 o'clock to 1 p.m. And then with a little bit of time afterward for Q&A, we'll do a regular, typically steered towards small scale agricultural producers. This next one, the link that I have is in a couple of weeks, and it's about North Carolina food crops and what you do to keep them alive. So if anybody here wants to be there for that, I'd love to have you. And then lastly, Durham County, my home county, is one of, I believe, 5 counties in the state that has a mobile poultry processing unit, which is a trailer containing everything you need to humanely, respectfully, and efficiently process the birds that I hope you raised with love according to best management practices. So if that is up your alley, please consider that as well. This is a small fraction of the wonderful resources that we have direct access to or that we are adjacent to. So please consider these options. And I think I've been very long-winded, so I should probably let it go. We're getting to the end, so yeah. Thanks really everybody for your time. Please do not hesitate to email any of us. I think we all really love what we do, so we'll be here to help if you need anything. But yeah, thank you all very much for your time, and it was a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, everyone. So final housekeeping things. We had some questions in the chat. I feel like they were answered. If somebody has another question that you need to reach out about, welcome to email me and I can send it to the team or send it to someone else directly if it involves them specifically. And then we will send out slides, recording, links, etc. As a follow-up later this week. So thank you everyone for your time. I'm going to stop recording.